Imagine walking through the same forest every morning. Nothing feels different. The birds are singing, the trees are perfectly still. And yet, high above you, a pair of eyes quietly follows every step you take. Days pass, then weeks. You return, believing you've become just another familiar face. But the truth is, you were being remembered all along. Welcome back to Wild Unknown. Today we're uncovering 7 extraordinary animals with memories so remarkable that they can recognize faces, remember encounters, and sometimes carry those memories for years. In the wild, forgetting can mean death, but remembering can change everything. The closer we get to number 1, the more unbelievable their memories become. Let's begin. Number 7. The magpie. Have you ever had the strange feeling that something was watching you? Not with fear, not with curiosity, but with recognition. Imagine walking through the same neighborhood every morning. One day you stop beneath a tree. A magpie lands on a nearby branch and stares at you for a few seconds before flying away. It seems like an ordinary moment, the kind you'd forget before the day is over. But the bird doesn't. The next morning, it notices you again. And the morning after that. To you, it's just another walk. To the magpie, you're no longer a stranger. Scientists have discovered that magpies are capable of recognizing individual people, learning who regularly appears in their territory, and remembering those encounters over time. That ability helps them decide who belongs and who doesn't. In a world where survival depends on making the right decision in a split second, recognizing a familiar face can be just as valuable as finding food. It's a quiet kind of intelligence, one that most people never notice, because unlike predators that rely on strength, a magpie survives by paying attention. And sometimes, the smallest observer remembers the most. But if you think recognizing a face is impressive, the next animal remembers something even more personal. Not just what you look like, but the unique sound of your voice. Number 6. The dolphin. What if someone called your name after 20 years, and you still knew exactly who it was? For most of us, that would seem almost impossible. But beneath the surface of the ocean, something remarkably similar happens every single day. Dolphins don't simply communicate. They identify one another with unique signature whistles, distinctive calls that function much like individual names. A young dolphin develops its own whistle early in life, and others learn to recognize it. Years can pass. Entire pods may separate and travel across different parts of the ocean. Yet when 2 old companions meet again, one familiar whistle is often enough. Recognition happens almost instantly. It's more than memory. It's a relationship preserved across time. Researchers have found that bottlenose dolphins can remember these signature whistles for decades, making their long-term social memory one of the most remarkable ever documented in the animal kingdom. Imagine living in a world where every voice carries an identity, and every familiar sound brings back years of shared experience. Perhaps that's why dolphin societies are so complex. Trust isn't built in a single encounter. It's built through memories that refuse to fade. And maybe that's the most extraordinary part. Some animals don't need to see your face, because they've already learned the sound that belongs to you. But the next animal takes memory one step further. It doesn't just remember who you are, it remembers exactly how you made it feel. Number 5. The chimpanzee. Some memories are not stored as names. They are stored as feelings. Imagine meeting a chimpanzee only once. You offer food. You speak softly. You keep your distance. The moment lasts only a few minutes. Then years pass. To you, it becomes a forgotten memory. But to the chimpanzee, the encounter may still have meaning. Chimpanzees live in complex social worlds where every face carries information. Friend, rival, stranger, threat. They do not simply notice who is standing in front of them, they remember what happened the last time that individual appeared. A calm encounter can build trust. A violent one can leave behind something far more dangerous. Because for a chimpanzee, memory is tied to emotion. That is what makes their recognition so powerful. A face is not just an image, it is a history, a warning, a promise. Sometimes, even a reason to approach. Sometimes, a reason to stay away. And the longer they live, the more of those invisible histories they carry. We often think of memory as something quiet, but inside a chimpanzee group, memory can shape alliances, settle conflicts, and decide who is forgiven and who is not. Yet the next animal carries memories across something even larger than a social group. It remembers people. It remembers places. And sometimes, it remembers loss. Number 4, the elephant. There is an old saying, an elephant never forgets. Most people treat it like a myth, a simple expression passed from one generation to the next. But sometimes, legends survive because they contain a piece of the truth. Imagine standing in front of an elephant you met years ago. You've changed. Your clothes are different. Your voice has grown older. Time has left its mark on both of you. And yet, the elephant pauses. It lifts its trunk into the air, breathing in your scent, studying your face, searching through memories that have been quietly waiting all this time. For elephants, memory is far more than remembering a path to water. It is remembering family, friends, safe places, dangerous places, and sometimes the people whose actions changed their lives. Researchers have long observed that elephants can recognize individuals after many years apart, while also remembering migration routes and watering holes across enormous landscapes. In a world where drought can last for months, and survival depends on finding resources that no longer exist on the surface, memory becomes something precious, almost like a map carried inside the mind. But perhaps the most extraordinary part isn't what elephants remember. It's why they remember. Every experience becomes another piece of knowledge passed through a family that may stay together for decades. A face is never just a face. It is connected to trust, to safety, to loss, to survival. And maybe that's why when an elephant looks at someone from its past, it sometimes seems less like recognition and more like remembering an entire story. But the next animal doesn't wait years to make a decision. It watches, it studies, and once it decides who you are, it may never see you the same way again. Number 3, the raven. Imagine being watched, not for seconds, but long enough for someone to decide exactly who you are. That is the world of the raven. Unlike animals that react purely on instinct, ravens spend time observing. They watch before they move. They listen before they trust. And once they've reached a conclusion, they rarely forget it. To most people, a raven is simply another black bird crossing the sky. But behind those dark eyes is one of the most sophisticated minds in the natural world. Researchers have found that ravens can recognize individual people and remember previous encounters, adjusting their behavior based on those experiences. They aren't just reacting to movement. They're reacting to memory. A face that once brought food may be welcomed. A face linked to danger may be avoided. The remarkable part isn't simply that they remember, it's that they appear to make decisions based on those memories. Almost as though every encounter quietly becomes another page in a book only they can read. Perhaps that's why ravens seem so calm. While other animals rush to judge what is happening, a raven often waits, watching, comparing, thinking. Because the first impression isn't always enough. Sometimes, the safest decision is the one made after remembering everything that came before. But even the raven keeps its memories to itself. The next animal does something far more extraordinary. It doesn't just remember your face, it can make sure others remember it too. Number 2, The crow. Imagine walking down the same street you have crossed 100 times before. Then suddenly, one crow begins calling. Another answers from a rooftop. Within seconds, the sound spreads above you. More birds arrive. More eyes turn in your direction. At first, it feels random. But the truth is far more unsettling. They are not reacting to the street. They are reacting to you. Crows can learn the face of someone they associate with danger and remember it for years. But their memory does not always remain with the bird that witnessed the encounter. Other crows watch. They listen. They learn. Young birds may even inherit the warning from their parents without ever meeting the person who caused it. In one long-running study, knowledge of a threatening human face spread among wild crows and continued expanding through their community. That changes everything. Because once one crow decides you are dangerous, you may no longer be dealing with one memory. You may be facing an entire network of them. A single encounter becomes a warning. The warning becomes a call, and the call becomes knowledge shared across distance and time. But the final animal carries memory even farther, not across a neighborhood, across an ocean, and sometimes across generations. Number 1. The orca. Imagine being born into a family where your first lessons don't come from instinct. They come from memory. Long before a young orca learns how to hunt, it watches, it follows, it remembers every movement, every call, every success, every mistake. For an orca, survival is not simply inherited through genes. It is passed from one generation to the next through experience. Different pods have their own hunting techniques, their own vocal patterns, even their own traditions. Young calves spend years observing older family members, gradually learning behaviors that cannot be mastered through instinct alone. In many ways, their greatest inheritance isn't strength, it's knowledge. And knowledge begins with memory. Researchers have found that orca families maintain long-term social bonds and preserve unique behaviors across generations, creating distinct cultures within different populations. That means an orca isn't only remembering its own life, it is carrying pieces of lives that came before it. A successful hunt, a dangerous coastline, a safe migration route, a familiar voice echoing through the ocean. Each generation adds another chapter. The next generation remembers it, and the story continues. Perhaps that's why watching a pod of orcas feels so different. You're not just watching a group of animals, you're watching decades, sometimes generations, of shared memory moving together through the sea. And maybe that's the most extraordinary discovery of all. The greatest memories in nature aren't always stored inside one mind. Sometimes they live inside an entire family. Perhaps the most extraordinary thing about these animals isn't their strength or their speed. It's their ability to remember. A single face, a familiar voice, one moment that can shape years of behavior. The next time you lock eyes with a wild animal, remember this. You may be observing it, but it could be remembering you. Which animal surprised you the most? And which one would you never want to be remembered by? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden intelligence of the animal kingdom, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible wildlife stories here on Wild Unknown. Until next time, stay curious.